the Community and Environmental Services Committee meeting of the 3rd of September at 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for coming. So let's get started. Apologies for absence.
There is one apology from Councillor Terry June.
I just started. Okay, and minutes from last month's meeting. Do we have any comments on the? No? Okay, I'll find those as we go, rather than you're waiting. Okay, so any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest? No. No. Excellent. Okay, so town team report, I will hand over to Nick to take us through this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Just to go through the town team report and give you a bit of an update with the team and some of the tasks they've been carrying out over the last month. So the team, again, have been working hard on the open spaces and town centre areas. We've also been, again, working closely with Norfolk County Council and Breckland Council, looking at some of the assets and areas under their ownerships. We continue, again, to work alongside them and build up some working partnerships. One of the things that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of days is meeting up with one of the Norfolk County Council new officers that's been designated for Thetford, and we'll be looking at some of the issues that have been sort of faced by us and the team, including grass cutting, weed vegetation, weed control and underpasses here in Thetford. So these will be some of the bits and pieces that we'll highlight with the new officer that we've been designated for Thetford. To sort of, resolve and sort out some of the issues that we've been facing. The team have been sort of battling this month, or over the last month, sorry. So they've been sort of battling on a low capacity, operating around about 50% due to sort of team members' annual leave, holidays, and also we've had some sickness as well within the team. But they've still carried on. They've been battling the assets in the town centre, particularly with the heritage finger posts, information boards. Again, assisting our graziers and carrying out fencing repairs, installing new boundary posts to Melford Common, carrying out sort of internal play area repair works. So they've been repairing some of the play areas around the town and doing those in-house to save the council some money where we used to previously use contractors. They've also been sort of carrying out some invasive species control on the ancient monument at Castle Mound. They've also been sort of looking at some of the vegetation works around the sites, trimming those back, and also carrying out some team training, which is valuable to the team. This has included the health and safety, manual handling, first aid, COSH, and risk assessing. Some of the works that they're working on as well is getting the areas clean and tidy. So this week we have the Angler and Bloom Presentation Awards being held here in Thetford for the very first time. So we have lots of people visiting the town from other towns and cities. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to showcase Thetford. And again, we've been working with Breckland and Norfolk on those issues, sort of getting them on board to look at some of the areas that they own and tidying them up and cleaning them up for us to showcase the town. Another great update for the team and for yourselves is that Mark, our new town amenities assistant, has been working hard on the public conveniences, and he's been battling along to pick up from where our previous contractor terminated their contract with us. So he's been working on those and getting them round, and he's made it, done a cracking job in those areas. And I think, it's highly commendable of what he's carried out into those sites. So that's a great achievement again for the team in the town. Moving on, some of the other areas we're looking at as well at the moment is the grazing. We've got a problem with blue tongue that's just recently broken out, so that's going to cause us a few issues with movement of livestock. But we're working with our current grazier that's grazing Castle Park, and we should be increasing some numbers of sheep on that site as soon as possible. So we'll hopefully get some more vegetation taken down on that area.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I should have said at the start that Nick's taking us through the town team report, the burial administrator and the markets report, but we thought we could do any comments or questions at the end of each section. So does anyone have anything they wanted to say about that first bit that's we've gone through? Terry?
Yeah, thanks for that, Nick. Couple of things. toilets. I've had a look around there, and I want to convey to Mark and to yourselves what a sterling job he's doing and how much better it has been since taking it in-house. I'm really pleased with that decision, both in terms of the finance and the outcome. I think it's worked for us on both levels. So that's a real win. I'm very pleased with that. Regarding grass cutting, I've had a complaint from someone who lives on St John's Way.
Okay.
The grass is supposed to be cut by the county. It hasn't been cut in years. Could you get on to them?
Absolutely.
It's the bit of grass between the road and the houses, not the sort of big houses, not the sort of multiple houses on the left as you go up the hill, but the more sort of semis and detached ones on the right.
It's quite central.
Yeah,
sort of within the
there's
same
a bit of grass between the road and the and the houses that is just never touched.
Okay.
So if you could push that, that would be brilliant. And the final thing is, it's more of a question really, who owns the benches alongside the river?
So we've been sort of determining some ownerships with both Breckland and Norfolk, and we are just waiting for Breckland to confirm because they're declaring that no ownerships are owned by themselves, which will then fall under the ownerships of ourselves. But we just need proof and written confirmation of that in license agreement. Well, they are definitely our benches.
Okay, good. I was out chatting with residents on Saturday. Quite a few mentioned the fact that you've got the benches there and no it's near them.
Okay.
Could we? I know we've got a decent stock of it.
Yes.
Could we get some out there, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Can look into
Fantastic.
that for you, no problem.
Brilliant.
Is that the main riverside down by the
Between the Town Bridge and
Hailing Path,
well, it is the Hailing Path and whatever the bridge is called.
Bladen Bridge? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I got in touch with Nick and thanks for replying about the grass on the outside St Barnabas, the triangle there.
Yes.
Lady wants to know now, will that can be cut next year so the children can play football on it in the summer holiday?
So one of the things that we set up when we had the less mowing consultancy with the public is that these areas are currently maintained by Serco under the historic agreement for cutting of sites. So I've recently been in contact with Serco and their supervisor, and he's assured me that the earliest they can cut the site is around about mid-October to November, which is far too late for a wildflower meadow to be cut. So I'm currently working with our current contractor to see if there's any possibility that we can get some assistance in getting those cut and collected as soon as possible, because now is the ideal time for those to be cut following their sort of flowering and seeding. So that's definitely something that we've got on the cards and we're following up as soon as possible.
Okay, and I do have another one. Some time ago, we put two benches at the bottom of Barnham Common. Much to my annoyance, one disappeared, and there isn't any.
There is one still at the bottom of Barnham Common. Yeah, there's still one near the car park area where the fruit trees are planted. Yeah, no, you've still got one there. Absolutely.
Great, and yeah, just as always, our big thanks to you and the team. So
thank you.
pass that
I
on
will
to
certainly
us.
pass it on to the team. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to take us through the
Yeah, so on to Burial Administrator's report. So just a quick brief overview that we're currently getting high on numbers of burials. So I believe Kerry had emailed out to committee members just to make you aware where we are. And we're just sort of keeping a close eye as a team internally on that, and we'll update as soon as possible if anything else arises on that one.
Nick, what happens when we reach capacity then?
So we do have to refuse burials on the newer side, unfortunately. Yeah, we are very, very restricted onto that site. The older side we're fine, but the newer side we have to be very, very careful with. Yeah.
And the consequence of that is that negative publicity for the council.
Could very well be, yeah. So that's hence why we're keeping a very close eye on it at the moment. If we do get to the stage, and obviously we'll contact you and make you aware of the next process step. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that we hadn't really got to our capacity for a while, and so it's been kind of sort of brushed under the carpet, not as a problem. So it's really quite fortuitous that it has come up, because we did speak before about do we want to do something with other options. And I think this kind of kicks us into the point where we need to have other options for the townsfolk to be able to remember people. Now, that might not be those in-ground burials, but it may be the ashes plots and things that are above ground that do not affect the watercourse. And this isn't, probably it's been sold incorrectly in the past about a money-making proposition. It has to be kind of funding somehow. It's more about giving people an option, because actually we're going to get to the point where that's it. You have no option, which is, so what I'm trying to say is we really ought to perhaps relook at that and say, are we going to actually go forward with it?
I mean, how do we take that forward? Is that something we?
Yeah, so obviously we can sort of look at that. So if the committee are happy, we can look at some options, and like Max said, look at sort of potential future initiatives at how we deal with that site, to offer, some different alternative options there, with the vaults and things that we can put on the site. Yeah.
We had a few presentations, if you remember, earlier in the year, and we started looking at those ideas, but we had two key projects. One was to get the rules updated, which is slowly coming along. There has been work done on that. And the other one was to look at these other alternatives. So now that we've done a little bit of restructuring, hopefully we have the capacity to start implementing these faster rather than the kind of snail's trail that we've been doing it up to now. So I think they are sitting in the action point somewhere to actually start doing that.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that we do know that even without the ashes plots, the option for memorial trees is relatively cheap and quickly done, and we can do it in small penny packets. So we could do 10 trees, see how that goes, then do another 10. So it doesn't have to be a complete solution straight away. Yeah.
Right. On to the next.
Allotments. So just an update. So we've got 27 applicants currently on the waiting list for allotments. The team are currently working through alongside Carl in getting plots and bits turned around. We will be shortly getting the rents renewed on allotments. So we should have an indication of which plots will be vacated and handed back. And that'll be a process of trying to get, again, more people off the waiting list for the allotment sites.
I couldn't find what the numbers were for last month. So have we improved on the amount of people we've got, or is it less?
So currently we're still standing at around about the same, because unfortunately we had a sickness with the team members.
Okay.
So we wasn't able to reduce it over the last month. Yeah.
Now for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks, so that's quite an impact on the allotments.
Any progress on the guy holding timber on?
So there's been a few meetings, I believe, happening. Alan can probably update.
So what we've done is I think because we haven't been, we've done the first round of inspections. We now go back and do the second round of inspections, and then we're going to have to make a decision as to what we do with this chap. One of the things I had to do from the last meeting was to see what other councils are doing in terms of deposits, and that's what I haven't touched sides. But that's what we have to do, and that will be the next way forward, because he's a high risk. I mean, although the price of wood these days, we might be able to have a bit of ourselves and recover quite a bit of the cost.
Okay.
On to markets.
Okay, so markets. So we have Julia, who's been our market coordinator now for around about 4 weeks. She's really been working hard over the last month in assisting our market traders and our weekly Tuesday and Saturday markets. She's now been reaching out further and promoting our weekly markets and interacting with many local existing businesses within the town, as well as also reaching out to other markets to try and recruit other traders to come in and trade onto the Thetford market. The new Markets Traders Pack has also been distributed throughout the town, and work has now begun in looking into further events to take place on the area of the marketplace on non-market days. The events could include potential regular farmers markets, producers markets and mini food festivals, some craft market days, family fun days and event days going forward.
Terry?
Yeah, Julia's brilliant. I've been really impressed with her. By all accounts, the stallholders have as well. She's not scared of work.
No.
and really takes a good wide view on what she's doing, which I'm massively pleased about. I think, however, she does need a bit of training.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you agree. She needs to know the job a bit better.
Yeah.
She's a bit unsure of bits and pieces. So
She's been settling in. But like you say, there is a few more little bits and pieces.
I think so.
For guidance and
we're all fans of training, so
Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Another thing I would ask for, coming towards you, Alan, sorry, regarding market takings, could we have that as part of the market report, please? I know it's more work for you, and I can only apologise, but I think that gives us a better idea of where the market is at any given time. Today, there was one stall, which is rather disheartening, I'm afraid. And Tuesdays are really poor. In that light, I would suggest and I don't know if we can do this via this agenda, it might mean something on the next meeting. I would suggest perhaps we have some sort of promotion around January, February time, which is a traditionally slack period, where maybe we have free stalls for new people for a certain time. I mean, the actual essence of it is up for debate, but given the state it's in now, I think we need to be pushing really hard, or within a few months we're going to lose Tuesdays altogether. And I couldn't bear that, frankly. And I think it would be a real negative for the town and for this council. There was a little incident that occurred on Saturday that I think demonstrates Julia's sort of will and her ability. Alongside St Cuthbert's Church is a couple of women. They formerly used to sell stuff for the Cats Protection League. They now sell it for Air Ambulance. They've been asking forever for a gazebo and haven't been provided with one. Julie's view, and it's one that I echo, is that we need to take a wider view, and the more people around the area, the better. They won't come on the market, so there's no point asking them to, and we're not going to get money for them coming on the market. But we hire out gazebos anyway, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't hire a gazebo, nor does she and nor did Graham. So that's been sorted out, and I think that is positive for the town and for the market, frankly. So I think that's a good thing, and says much about her will to succeed, really. So I think it's good news.
So, do you like us to put an item on the next agenda, looking at promotion of the market? So the suggestions that have been made.
Yeah, is that what you'd like to see in the next?
Yeah, I don't think we can vote on it tonight because it's not on the agenda, but I think that's something we should do going ahead. There's the packs. I think we need to be really exercised about what we're doing. It's on the point of collapse.
Yeah.
Can I ask for that? And then on Saturday, I think there was a second stall on the end of where the Cats Protection lot are.
Yeah.
There was another one there, right?
Yeah.
Are people just allowed to have stalls there then?
I'm not sure what the situation is. I think, I've a feeling St Cuthbert's allowed them to sit there for free.
I think it does. I think, like you say, Terry, the part of the ownership of that area at the front of the church is owned by St Cuthbert. Yeah. So there is some nice in the ground, and it's the distinguishing point where the St Cuthbert's church own and the highways own the area.
And I've asked, personally, I've gone and asked the two ladies there a number of times, and they say, oh, well, people expect us to be there. It's nonsense. They just don't want to pay. And in the end, it's better that they're there and looked after than they're not, I think.
Anything else on markets? Okay, so it's volunteer groups we're left. Did you want to go through that one?
Yeah, so a quick update on the volunteers. So the In Bloom volunteers and the conservation volunteers have been working hard on those different areas. So again, the conservation volunteers have been sort of working on some of the invasive species work on the Castle Mound Ancient Scheduled Monument. They've also been weeding a lot of the hedges that was planted a few years ago that were becoming a little bit unsightly around the Mill Lane and Nunsbridges roads. They've also been clearing back a lot of the pathways and vegetation. In Bloom volunteers, so they've been working hard on the town centre areas, again, combating a lot of the weed issues that are unfortunately highways and Norfolk County Council's responsibility. But again, they've been combating a lot of those issues around the town, weeding out the flower beds and also maintaining and deadheading a lot of our flower displays. So they've been really, really working hard within the areas. And again, the total volunteer hours equated to around about 35 hours combined with both volunteer groups. So again, that was a real positive that 36 hours were given again by volunteers to Thetford.
Great to hear. I was just going to make a comment on earlier in the year, we said we were going to run another community litter pick.
Yes, yeah.
So in October
That's
or
something
November.
that we're definitely looking at, yeah.
Okay.
So it's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that was, I think it was the Friday and the Saturday
It
before?
was the Friday and the Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of include people during the week, but then also families and everything to join on the Saturday.
And
Yeah.
do you think there's possibility to speak to maybe local businesses to see if they
Yeah,
can
I think
send their
so.
staff
Yeah, I
out?
mean, we've certainly had some requests. So we've done some odd requests previously on some odd days with local businesses. So they've obviously wanted to do some team building and stuff with their staff, and they've came in and give some of their volunteer time to Barnham Cross Common and some of our open spaces. So yeah, definitely, I think it's worth contacting out to local businesses. We can do that, no problem.
Right, okay. Mac?
So I was just going to comment on the planting. So just outside the Carnegie here, along the fence there, I brought my parents up the weekend and, you know, they remarked on it and I have to say it looks really good. So all the planting along there is brilliant. Shame about the horrendous building that's behind it. And there's one weird thing that I don't understand. So when we get to the left-hand end of the building, as you look at it, there's some redundant wood that's been left bolted up there from an old sign. And all this, yeah. So on the far end of the Carnegie, you'll see it. It's really obvious where you've got the bit that overhangs out.
Yes.
The stage.
Okay.
There's some odd bits of wood that look like they just never got removed.
Right.
And you know they commented there, and I thought fair point actually because we've done all that brilliant work on the planting, and it does look good. And then behind is just a bit of not quite tidy.
That's fine. That's noted, Mac. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah, volunteers have done an outstanding job for us, I think, really have, and it's been a great initiative and they've done some brilliant work. Would I be right in assuming that we take their names and addresses for insurance purposes?
Yes, you would do.
Good, because in that case, I think a letter thanking them for all their efforts
Yeah.
would be a really nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something we can do. And I'm going to ask David, who does the volunteer groups, to do that so we can get something put together. Just
Yeah,
thanking them for all their hard work. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we've got all their
Think it goes a long
details, so
way.
we can push that out. No worries.
The Heritage and Events Committee are looking at how do we actually have a kind of on its citizens stuff.
Yeah,
Not like the Taras, but get the to recognise the conservation volunteers, to recognise all of them rather than just trying to select one person. And say,
Yeah.
"Oh."
okay, yeah.
So that committee's having a look at it. It's my understanding.
Okay. Can we do it anyway?
Okay.
Thank you, Hazel. That's everything. Thank
very
you.
much, Nick. That's great. Really good to hear. Okay, so moving on to 27324, final financial reports. The beady-eyed among you will have noticed that this is final rather than preliminary. So Alan will just maybe explain why we've made that decision and then take us through the report.
One of the challenges of this committee is that meeting on the first Tuesday of the month to get financial information out is actually quite incredible. I mean, we've been processing invoices right up to 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we're still fairly certain that we have got all the invoices in. So speaking to the chair, we thought, instead of spending all the time, instead of spending time just getting the data there, we'd actually take a step back and start interpreting the data. Because I think one of the things about the financial reports is that they're very technical, there's a whole lot of wording and descriptions, but there's actually not interpretation. So what I've tried this particular month and I'll leave it up to the committee to decide whether this is useful, rather interpret one of the key issues and the narration that's the front part of this report really does that. So I've divided it into the 4 areas, the general areas of this committee, cemetery, allotments and markets, and really just, highlighted the key risks. So if I just had to summarize, the donations have been fantastic. Nick has done a really great job in getting donations for Thetford and Bloom and Anglian Bloom. So we've got income much higher than we budgeted there. We've also got higher expenditure because obviously we've used that money to spend on flower beds and floral displays. Our key financial risk, and Nick sent me an email just before this meeting, is we've got major challenges with grass cutting. Because we've had challenges with the grazing, it is horrendous. Last year we spent nearly 22,000 pounds spent on grass cutting. Hopefully we won't have to do anything on Castle Mound. I don't know, fingers crossed still on that. But in Barnum Cross Common, we're going to have to cut, we might have to cut the gorse. People have been setting fire to it. And of course, because there's so much gorse, it actually has quite a bit of major implications. So I haven't had a chance to study the Nick's email yet, but maybe we can forward it on to the committee so that you're aware that these are the type of, this is a huge risk to the financial performance of this particular committee. The other area that, if you have a look at the financial report, so our toilet expenditure is higher than budget. We were expecting to terminate the contract on the 1st of April. We couldn't find a staff member because we weren't going to take the risk of terminating the contract and then having no staff members to take it over. And we had 2 sets of interviews where there's 6 people, not one of them turned up. So it's taken us quite a while. So as soon as we employed Mark, we've terminated that contract. We've obviously had the saving in the salaries account, and that's funded the over expenditure in the toilet account. The vehicle hire is a huge risk. So that is we spending about £3,000 a month. We certainly didn't budget that. So that's one of the management senior leadership team priorities that we have to address going forward. And we had our first senior leadership team meeting today, and that was certainly one of the areas on the agenda. On a positive note, we are way below our salaries budget. So that's funding some of the over expenditure. And then the other pleasing factor is that our pay park expenditure last year, we really spent tens of thousands of pounds. We've had 2 positive things. I think all the backlog maintenance is now being caught up, so we don't have any of that. And secondly, I think tomorrow and Thursday, the last days of school holidays, we actually haven't had that much vandalism relative to previous years. So finished, yeah. Touch wood, that actually continues. So overall, our income is 8,879 higher, and our expenditure is 12,531 lower. So that's all positives from that particular committee's perspective. Renewing the open space contract is our next challenge that we have to start thinking about. So the new town clerk has asked Nick to do a little bit of work to start getting some indicative pricing, because we won't be able to do budgeting without knowing certainty what those costs are and what the implications of those costs are. Now we'll stop saying the new town clerk, the town clerk. So I don't know if you want to stop there or to continue.
Do you want to make any comments? Oh, no, Terry first then.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It's a sort of question for Alan, really. Regarding the vehicles and the rental, have you got any sort of idea of what sort of figure we're paying to rent vehicles?
We're paying about £3,400 for 4 vehicles a month.
Would it be cheaper to buy, say, out of 3-year-old vehicles and run them ourselves? Is that the way forward?
The time clerk has suggested that is an area, one of the options for us to look at.
Yeah. Buy maybe, say, a 3, 5, 7-year-old, so as you stagger the time where they... Or
set up a sinking fund so that we renew them on a yearly basis. The risk we had last time is that we kept the vehicles for too long. And it was silly reasons. We couldn't hand it back because we had no contact. They wouldn't take any information from me. They wouldn't take any information from Nick, because we're not authorised representatives of the council. So it was very difficult sorting that out. But we didn't have appropriate vehicles, and we were using them inappropriately. So we had, the clutches would be burnt out and all sorts of things. So it is a cost that we just have to manage and monitor going forward.
I think it's one of those things, is initial cost, and then it drops.
So it's on a very similar sort of thing. It was because I know that when we came into this current council, we talked a lot about the vehicles and whether we'd have, hybrids and all the rest of that kind of thing. And I wondered if the result of that was that we've ended up with vehicles that were too expensive. Was that something that was kind of driven by us?
No, what we had was we were driven by a shortage of vehicles.
Yes.
We were looking at new vehicles, and even the second-hand market was quite. Remember, you had the chip shortage.
Yes.
So we could get bright orange ones, for example, which I didn't think with our branding would be that great. So the market has returned to normal. We just have been stuck and getting back into it and
Right. So the answer is it wasn't directly linked to something, a decision we made.
Yeah.
That's good.
Stuart?
Yeah, a couple of things on the vehicles. Is it any extra cost having electric vehicles because of the environment? Is that option? And also, I know what Terry's saying about buying vehicles, but I'd go lease purchase, because I know, well, Northgate in Norwich, they'll lease their vehicles and they'll give you a service contract, and they'll come and service the vehicles on site when they're required, any sort of problems with them. Is that an option?
Our brief is to look at all options, so we'll take that on board and have a look at that and see what we can do. So we've got to bring the paper back at management level, and then after that we'll bring it back to committee level.
Oh, yeah.
Minor point, the column headers for the table there need some adjustment, I think, do they? 2024 to 24 and 2023 to 24.
The very first one is just,
Yeah.
sorry, what is the previous year actual?
Right.
Notes, sorry, it should be the actual for 31 July 2024, sorry. I will change that.
Stuart?
Yeah, and on the subject of play parks, are we any closer to purchasing any equipment which ties in with everyone has the right to play?
Yeah, so that's something we've been working on recently, along with our installers and providers of the play equipment. So we've had a big survey carried out on all our play areas to look at where additional equipment could be put in, alongside the equipment we have installed already, as well as to look at some of the replacements of the older stuff. And I just recently have seen an email across to the Youth Advisory Board just to get their points of view on it and see if they've had any information that are considered as well. And then we'll invite them along to one of our committee meetings just to discuss through and see what some of their ideas are for the play parks, which will be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
In terms of the cemetery, income is difficult to predict because you've got fees for parishioners and fees for non-parishioners. And in some cases, the fees for non-parishioners are double the fee for parishioners. So it is quite difficult to project. We also, in the last few years, we haven't come anywhere close to our capacity, whereas this year we are close to our capacity. So I'm not too sure really what will happen there. We've got a grant from BFER for the pond, so that's going to be built. I'm not, the costs are included in the cemetery costs, but the income hasn't been accrued. I just need to have, we were supposed to have a meeting and get the accrual out, the invoice out, which we'll get around to doing.
The project end date on that one is the end of September, but we should be able to submit our claim by the end of September to get that in process.
And then the cemetery maintenance costs, we just had an emergency maintenance where we had to replace a rotted walkway. That cost us a lot more money than we've spent. And I have to say, over the last few years, we've hardly spent anything on our cemetery. You know, our maintenance costs have been very, very low. So this is just one of the things that came back to bite us. In terms of the groundwater monitoring, it looks like we haven't had any groundwater monitoring. We actually have had, they just haven't told us this year. So they did one in June, we got the report. They did, and they've done one recently, but they have issued a report for that. So I've emailed them and asked them for the costs because that obviously needs to come into the account. But in terms of the cemetery, it's from a financial perspective, it's very, very low risk. Income is slightly lower than budget, and expenditure is higher for those particular reasons by £2,222.
Okay. Any comments on that section? Okay, on to allotments.
The allotments, the allotment year runs from the 11th of October one year to the 10th of October the following year. We actually bill annually. The program that we use is actually geared to do that. So during the year, we don't have pro rata charges. We charge everyone a full fee. And then when we come to do the renewals, we give people a discount for the part of the year that they didn't use in the current year. So someone taking out a allotment now, we charge for 12 months. But in the next bill, we'll give them a credit from the 11th of October to today's date so that they end up paying over time the correct fee. We've set the fees 1 year in advance. And one of the things that I have to put up my hand and be very embarrassed is that we actually need to look at allotment fees. If you remember from following on from the last meeting, I was tasked with looking at deposits and fees. And I just, I need to do that piece of work before we can look at this. But the risk we have is that we have to give allotment holders 1 year's notice when we increase the fees. So I'll take some advice of this and see whether we can take it possibly to full council at the end of the month if we do decide that, so that we can at least get that legally put in place. The expenditure, there's the various relates to two areas. One was emergency tree maintenance, which we had to take up. That was 3,700. And the other one is the water tap repair. We call it water tap repairs. We have to buy a stock of water tap keys, which we rent out to allotment holders for £10. We don't have an elaborate accounting system to say put them into stock, etc., because the value and the add value of doing that certainly would not outweigh the cost of doing that. So we've kept a very simple accounting system. But based on that, financial risks are okay. Nothing to be concerned.
Chris?
Yeah, we've still got these lump sum of money now, haven't we, that we were going to spend on Ramsey Close. And that's still sitting there in the account. Can we use some of that to clear some of the allotments in a hurry?
That could be subject to the reserves policy because that actually sits as a reserve. So we just have to see what we've set for that particular item in the reserve.
That was specifically for Ramsey Close.
No, Terry,
There were two reserves. One was for new allotment land, and the other one was for development of allotments. And so I think we merged them together and then put them into the reserve policy.
It's moving Thetford forward money or back.
Possibly, yeah.
And it's sitting about 39,000 per if I'm rightly. So some has gone. They'll possibly use some of that to speed up clearing the allotments if we can't spend it on new ones at the back.
We'll put that into the budget. When we start the budget process, we'll have a look at that. And then from the market, there is a market report. So if you want to get an idea of what the market fees are, they are included here. So our actual market fees are 4,940. We budgeted, and our budget is profiled in the quieter months. They track trends of previous years. So our budget is £5,553. So we've got a negative variance of £613. We've budgeted 16,000. So we're 5 months of the way through the year. So there is a chance we may not reach that £16,000. But otherwise, there's no financial risks in terms of the market.
Thank you, Alan. Have we got any comments or questions on that? I'd just like to say I really appreciate having the time to look through it, also by having this final report rather than the preliminary, and also the breakdown of everything has really helped me to understand what's going on. So I think that's a good way forward if everyone is happy with that.
So I really welcome this summary of the risks. Really helps us focus on the important things. So yeah, that's really great development. Thank you.
Give credit to the type box.
Okay. Right, so we'll move on then if everyone's happy. Thank Thank you very much, Alan. Okay, so next we have 27424, fencing on Castle Mound, and I'll hand over to Nick if you're happy to take that.
Yeah. So currently at the Castle Mound Ancient Scheduled Monument, we've got a temporary fence that's been placed up against the walkway leading up to the main staircase of the scheduled monument. The team basically installed this fence to enable the area to be grazed, but still allow access to the staircase of the ancient scheduled monument. One of the problems that they faced when they installed the actual fence was that we cannot dig or put anything into the ground without scheduled ancient monument consent. So they've had to put a temporary fence up using some Met posts, and they've done that. It's withstanding the first time it was vandalised, unfortunately, but they have gone back a second time and strengthened what we've got there at present. But what they've actually done is we've looked at an option where potentially we could say to the committee and yourselves, would you like us to explore the installation of a more permanent livestock fence for that area? Which would then obviously take into account that we'd have to go to ancient scheduled monument to get consent in a sense for that to happen. But that would allow for a permanent fence to be installed there. But also at the very far end of that, you can just see that there'll be a removable section. So it will still allow at times when the grazing's not taking place or the animals aren't within that area, that we could remove those small sections out to allow public access down and around the monument itself. But currently, as it stands, there's no access from there because it's a solid fence going along. But there is still access into the site. It just means that public and users of the area will have to go a little bit further up to one of the other access points to gain access in. So it's just to get the views of the committee to see whether you want us to explore a more permanent solution for there.
Terry.
I would be in favour of a permanent solution. Wouldn't a gate be the answer?
So we've got,
Similar to the gates we already have.
So you're thinking at the bottom of the mound itself?
So you've got two bits of fence.
Yep.
Gate either side.
Yep.
That would seem, rather than messing about putting stuff up, taking it down.
Yep.
Just have a gate in each piece of.
That's something we can explore. Again, we'd have to get consent to put the posts in.
Yeah.
The strength.
Yeah.
So the strength itself for the gate, obviously swinging, we would need
But you've already got the post
but
for
we
the
will
gate,
certainly, So the posts are actually fixed in by Met posts, so they're not actually into the ground.
No, I mean the existing posts.
Yes.
So you can put a gate on those.
So we could certainly look into that, yeah.
And my feeling is that if we don't put a gate in, then it'll become a local scandal known as Gate.
Yeah, that's something we can look at.
I mean, it is worth noting that we think that the fence is only going to be in use for 6 to 8 weeks.
That's right. Very short time. It's just unfortunate now we've got this blue tongue. There's a slight delay in the animals going onto the site. But what we cannot risk as a council is getting a dog attack on that site because we can't afford to then lose the grazier and sheep off that site because we are back to square one again.
Yeah.
And that's something we are fearing. So hence why that fence is temporarily up at the moment. Yeah.
I haven't seen this as a comparison. So is that exactly the same height as all the other fences, or is it slightly higher?
Yeah, no, it's within the same sort of height. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I say, it can easily be removed once the grazing has taken place. It can easily be removed. There's no issue there at all. But it's just while the livestock will be potentially on the site, then obviously that's had to be put in place. Because our current grazier has said if she gets any dog attacks, the sheep will be removed immediately. And we just can't afford to lose them. Yeah.
While I said there is a cost to putting posts in the ground and all the rest of it, I do get the feeling that putting up fences and taking them down would, in the end, prove more costly in terms of man hours than actually having a permanent one all the time. And be a better disincentive to people to go across there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have thought it would be more robust if it's a permanent feature rather than something that
It would give it more structure.
slightly more temporary.
Yeah. That's definitely something we can to Historic England with and get the process in, because it's not going to be a quick process, but it's something we can definitely put in place for next year and get that hopefully moving as quick as possible.
I mean, we can always, you did allow us a load of steps up there, so a couple more holes in.
Yeah, and I mean, it's proven obviously the first time that this fence was installed, it was vandalised. So, you know, it does prove the need for a more permanent solution. So that backs up our case really when we submit that to, you know, Historic England, that, you know, obviously we want a permanent solution there for that site.
Are you saying, Nick, that a more permanent fence would be unable to be vandalised, or it's harder to vandalise?
Less likely to be vandalised more severely than what a temporary fence is, yeah, because you'll have the stability and the strength of the post being installed into the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Electric then.
Nice.
And just remind us again, Nick, if you can, that the temporary fence has been criticised by the public, criticised because it's not beautiful, or it's too high, or it's too low, or
It's because of the access. So before you could access down and round the monument itself. But I think we have to be clear that we haven't restricted access completely to that area. We still have allowed it at the moment while that fence sits there, while there's no livestock there. They can still access into that area. It's just that they can't go from that point where the bottom of the steps was down. Yeah.
And I think it was.
and again, a permanent fence would allow you to do that.
Yeah, so there would be gates included within the permanent fence. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
I think it was about how it looks as well, the actual.
The appearance.
If you don't realise it's a temporary fence, it looks like a poorly
Yeah.
done permanent fence,
Yeah.
which isn't right.
Yeah.
I can see the benefit of having a removable section, just thinking about you're coming in that gate, then you've got another
Yeah.
gate, and then you've got another gate, and there's quite a slope
There
coming
is.
off that path there. So if you were able to just remove that section, that would just free up that
Yeah.
area.
You know, I know for those who do the fitness route round there, they use that when it's available.
Yeah.
So if you've got to stop and do a gate each time, that is going to make things a little bit more difficult and probably stop them from doing it. But I'm kind of on Terry's side here, in as much as if it's a removable thing, is it going to be robust enough to not become something that's permanently broken? Do you know what I mean? If it could be done,
Yeah.
fine. But
We can certainly look at some options. But I say, you know, the main thing is us for a council and as officers, you know, we just cannot afford to lose our current grazier. We've had so much issues with grazing on our sites, and we still currently have issues with the Barnham Common because of dog attacks. And the last thing we want now is for that site to suddenly have a dog attack, and then everybody pulls out and we're completely back to square one with nobody or anyone to actually graze an area. Because when we're in big trouble, you know, we've got some huge and significant costs in front of us.
And can I ask also, where are we with the thought of costing a permanent?
So it's very early stages. This was just to consult the committee whether you would be happy for us to look at a permanent solution, and then we can go away and
So
obviously.
the decision
Yeah.
you want us to actually
Yeah.
pass through.
Well, the officer recommendation says ought to pursue the installation of a more permanent. Yeah, so I'm thinking I'd quite like to know what we're talking about in terms of money before I agree to say yes or no to going ahead. The two separate things.
So the decision is to decide whether or not to investigate a more permanent
Yeah.
fencing.
Okay.
So we're deciding if they're going to
Oh.
investigate.
Let's do it step by step.
I propose we investigate.
Yeah.
Just a second. All those in favour? Excellent. Right, let's move on. Thank you very much. Right, so we're on to 27524 Community Orchards. So hopefully everyone has seen the letter that was included in the pack about the offer from Brexton District Council. They're doing grants for local community orchards, and it's a minimum. You need a location with a minimum of 5 trees, and you need to then look after the trees for the duration of their life. So we wanted to bring this here just to see if anyone had any suggestions for locations where we could benefit from applying for a community orchard. Chris?
Behind Dane Close.
Behind where?
Behind Dane Close. There's a triangle of land there that the council own. We did look in putting trees some time ago, but it never went any further. But that would be a good thing. Because you can't get to it, you can't access it. If we looked at it for allotments, but you just can't get to it. There's no vehicle access. But it's handy, it's a nice little area as you walk through Newtown, Dane Close, Saxon Place.
So one of the things I was going to suggest on this is we don't necessarily have to have one site where, you know, a big variety, like an arboretum of, you know, an orchard has to be, does it? We could split it up into small 5 trees, packets, you know, in amongst place.
So I think it has to be 5 trees in one location.
Yes,
But you can have more.
but we can multiply that on several, right, okay.
I think probably target sort of some schools, because I think some schools getting into the sort of, I know Drake School, the one on my road, is quite keen on having sort of a greener environment in there. The other thing that sort of springs out in mind is that we've only got 10 days. So this is dated meeting the 3rd of September, and the application is between 5th of August and the 13th of September. So we've only got 10 days to actually try and find people to put in grant applications.
I think this is more for if we have town council owned land. There's no reason we couldn't forward on to other, if you have an idea for another location, just forward on the email.
I think if it's schools, they go under their own steam, don't they? They have to apply themselves. That's not really to do with us, is it?
No.
I'm all in favour of Chris's suggestion. Yeah.
In principle, the decision to actually pursue the grant and then Jane Close would be the.
Yeah. As Stuart says, we've got to work pretty quick.
The allotment sites, potential places where we could put in a row of trees.
We do allow allotment holders to have their own trees, but we limit the number because of the, if someone leaves, the next allotment tenant doesn't want to come in. So I think they have to be in cages, so the growth is restricted and they're easy to remove. If the next allotment holder comes in and doesn't want that particular tree or wants to change what they use the allotment site for.
Could we put in trees along the entrance tracks or something?
Well, I don't know. Would you like us to investigate? Because I think allotments are not public property. We actually treat them as they're tenanted. So when you talk about a community orchard, you're actually saying it's an allotment orchard rather than a community orchard.
Ramsey Close would be nice.
You could put 5 trees in there without it taken away from what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, just earlier in the year, I went up to Horning, and up on the top of Horning, there's a community orchard there. And I think they've got, I just took a picture of it, 31 different species up there. And it's done as a Jubilee walk. So it's a line of trees and an explanation of what each of the different varieties are underneath, which is really quite nice. I agree with everybody so far, and there's it. We need to go after the bid and find somewhere that we own that we can get on with it quite quickly. But there's a lot of legs in this, because actually we could do a bit of partnership working with Breckland, and we've got some big spaces where we could do a similar project where we do multiple trees, whether it's either a circular route or a walk similar. So
unfortunately, a lot of them are Breckland Bridge, aren't they? Those spaces.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I would love to be able to get those spaces and develop them as mini orchards. It'd be lovely.
So there's a really good example, one we've moaned about in the past, is up at the back of the Healthy Living Centre, where they had the extended car park, and they did absolutely zilch in the way of trying to improve the green spaces just behind it. If they'd have put trees on there of some kind, it would have helped, but that would be an ideal location to have a walk. And actually all that happens now is because they've not bothered with it, it's become a green car park. So that would be a partnership piece. So
I think the cemetery would be nice as well, to be fair. I think Lincoln Cemetery in King's Lynn, they've got, it's a very big orchard. And, it's like a reflecting garden, so people can sort of sit there and reflect. It's quite a nice sort of idea.
Just as a thought, and I don't know if it would work, Green Close. We own that piece of land now. I don't know if it's possible there. We have amenity spaces quite big.
The paperwork hasn't gone in for that yet, so.
Okay, so that's not going to happen.
The paperwork hasn't been finalised.
Stop it, okay then.
Sorry.
I think this is one of these things. Obviously, as Stuart says, we need to act quickly. Chris has suggested
Staying close.
staying close. I think that's what we go for, isn't it? With a view to other suggestions if this offer is repeated, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, do we need to take a vote on that or are we just,
Yes, please.
okay. So sorry, I've lost my place. So could we have a proposer, please, Terry? And a seconder, Chris? All those in favour? Great. Okay, thank you. So you're happy to look into doing that for us. Thank you very much. Okay, so 27624, progress on actions from previous meetings. Alan, is there anything you'd like to highlight in particular?
Nothing other than this is the worst part of the meeting for me. 21424, that's now being completed, but that's due to Nick. We sorted out the issues on 21824. We've corrected the reports. The financial reports are now accurate. The budgeted recruitment of apprentices, we're just bedding down the new structure because we're changing the structure. We've changed the whole of the reporting lines, and to add another 2 individuals to Nick, whilst doing all the other changes would be difficult. We have to come up with the consultation on Ramsey Close, so I have to do some work with work out how we're actually going to do that public consultation, etc. So there's a bit of work to go there. 22124 managed to be done, and 22224 has now been done.
Brilliant. Chris?
I'm not totally convinced that the bin on Mill Lane is done. I was there today and it's still surrounded by nettles.
Which bin is it, Chris? I will check with my team tomorrow morning because they assured me that all bins were completed.
Imagine you're coming round by Mill Lane.
Yeah.
And past News Avenue.
Yeah.
When going up Mill Lane that way, it's the first bin.
It's the very first.
The river again. There's nettles round it and there's a log there. I've only been for about 4 years, so we're doing okay. I'm not one to complain now.
That'll be the team's first job tomorrow.
Any other comments on the?
I'm just going to mention bins while we're on it. When you actually start looking around, a lot of our benches and bins are dislocated because they've changed location over the years. So that's a really good example where there was a bench, the bench went, we've now got a bin that's stuck all on its own, miles away from, and consequently people don't use them.
No.
So, and I know you don't want to sit at a bench with a bin right next to you, but they should be kind of roughly in the location of it. Because that's, and you'll find it even on Barnum Cross, on the path down there, you know, there's a couple of benches and now some of the bins are further away. So
one of the jobs that the team will shortly be doing, amongst all their other bits, is to do a big audit on a lot of the street furniture, a lot of the bins, the benches, because we desperately need to find the ownerships on them. A lot of them are being degraded, in need of replacements. And I'm quite conscious of us as a council, we just, you know, haven't got the financial capability of claiming every single bin and bench around the town. So a lot of these areas will be audited, and then that'll be a good opportunity to look at those areas where there's bins just on their own with no benches and no need. And then we can maybe relocate or, you know, put them in more prominent positions where they will be used.
I might be able to help with one.
Yeah.
Because I was at the Police and Crime Commissioners speak today, and they were talking about the antisocial behaviour, the drinking that goes on behind the church.
Okay.
And next to the supermarket there,
Yes.
got urine alley.
There is.
On the other side, there's a little sort of alcove, which is a hidey area that's got a bin in, and it attracts people to hide in there.
Yeah.
I think one of the solutions that the Police and Crime Commissioner is keen to do is to stop that being an area people can go into. Therefore, ergo, we could probably get rid of the bin if it's one of ours.
Yeah. Again, I think from what I've heard on that area, enforcement are currently looking at some options to potentially putting a permanent fence up along there to stop that area being used.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things is CCTV to be incorporated within that area because, like you said, there's a lot of antisocial behaviour going on and certainly some undesirables, unfortunately, going into that area. And doing things they shouldn't be doing. So I know it's definitely as a high priority and high profile area to be looked at. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Free bin, Chris.
Great, okay. That wasn't too painful. So finally, we have 27724 committee officers update. Do we have any?
There's nothing, Chair.
Okay, great. So I guess just a reminder that we don't have a meeting next month, is that correct? So the next meeting for this committee will be November. I don't know which day.
First Tuesday.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I haven't had a full member.
Sorry, can I just finish recording the meeting?
Oh, carry on, right, don't you, right? Yeah, so I've got to see if I can find it. What's going on. I've got the RAF back.
Yeah, so the Battle of Britain one this weekend.
Yeah, but I've got nothing for defence budgets in November.
It's what I like. So you probably gathered from that meeting today, there's so much in the air about what it was trying to do.
Yeah, could you?
It's been really hard to sort of nail them down, say, what are you doing, what do you want? Everything all at once. I think it's going to be all right.
Make sure that what they're voting for, they actually, because the resolution.
I want to